So here's a short tutorial on exam technique and steps to success. We're looking at the sorts of things that you should be doing for every single question in order to maximize your chances of doing as well as you possibly can for each question. And it's really important that we are aware of how significant good exam technique is. When we receive feedback from the exam boards recently on previous years' examinations, it's always made clear to us that exam technique is often quite poor, and this is what lets students down even though they have good understanding of the topics that they're being examined on. So if we get our exam technique right, this could be as much as a grade or more difference in our final outcome. So hopefully you'll take on board these tips and success steps, and hopefully you'll be able to use them to your benefit. The first one we're going to look at, which is pretty obvious but nevertheless often not done well, is that we need to read the question very carefully. Now some people would advise reading the question at least 5 times. I'm suggesting here at least 3 times before you begin your response. So what happens is often people see a key word, a key point, and they think, bang, this is what the question is about, and they dive into answering the question on that particular point without having read the question carefully and thoroughly and identified exactly what the question is actually asking. So point number 1 is read each question very carefully at least 3 times before you begin your response. So our second step is to ensure that we identify exactly what we're being asked to do. And what we need to do then is to underline the command words. And the command words means the question words. Those are the words that ask you to do specific things, for example, to explain or to discuss or to describe or to identify. And it's really important that first of all you underline those words, and then obviously you need to understand what they mean, what they want you to do, and that you respond to those words. So if it says discuss a certain topic, you don't just write everything you know about that particular topic. You need to make sure that you discuss. So you need to respond to the command words. And often candidates, students in exams come a cropper because they don't do what they've been asked to do. So underline, identify those command words, and make sure that you respond to them. Step 3 then is similar to step 2 in that this time we're looking to underline and identify the subject, or sometimes the subjects, in the question. This really means what is the question about? And it's really important again that we respond to exactly what we're being asked to do. So ensure that we talk about the subject in our answer. Step 4 for me is possibly the most important step in the whole exam technique process. This involves ensuring that we understand and we're aware of how many marks there are available for each question. And what you need to do is, once you've read the question through 3 or 4 times, is circle the number of marks available. Make sure that you're aware of how many marks there are available for each question. Usually, as a rule of thumb, although this isn't always the case, but as a rule of thumb, the number of marks that are available mean that that is the number of different points you need to give in your answer. So for example, if there are 3 marks available for the question, the examiners will be looking for 3 different points within your answer, rather than 1 point which you've written about a lot for about, let's say, a paragraph. They'd rather be looking for a point, 1 or 2 lines, another point, 1 or 2 lines, and a third different point, 1 or 2 lines. That is the way that you are going to get your marks. This is such an important part of exam technique. If you can develop this well and you're on top of this, then your chances of maximizing success will grow hugely. Our next point is the importance of planning your answer before you dive in to writing your response. Give yourself enough time to think about what the examiner is looking for, what are going to be the key points, the key terminology, the key areas that are going to score you marks. Plan it very briefly, and then once you're ready to, start writing your response. The second point here for this step, and this again is so important, is the need for and the importance of giving correct examples when asked for, particularly in the skill acquisition part of the paper. When asked to give examples, you must give an example. If you don't give an example, you won't get any marks, and that is such a shame. And that's where you can easily throw away marks when you have good knowledge but you haven't responded to what the question is asking of you. So make sure you give examples and ensure that those examples are the correct examples. For example, if you're asked to give an example of a sport in team games, make sure your example is a team game. If you're asked to give examples in an athletics event or an example, make sure that it's athletics. Please don't let yourself down by ignoring and making silly mistakes by not giving examples when asked for. And our final step is one in which we complete the cycle. And by that I mean, once we've written our response, we check back through it. We read it for grammar, spelling, punctuation, but we also check it to make sure that we've answered what the question has asked us. Okay, so we check our response against the question, and then we also need to make sure that we have answered all of the question. Sometimes your questions will be divided up and there will be two different parts of the question even though it's only one long sentence. Make sure that you have answered all parts of the question. When you've done that, when you've checked it through and you're happy that you've hit everything that the question has asked you, including the number of different points that you should have made, when you're convinced that you've done everything you could have done, that's when you move on to the next question.